Marina, it's happening in
That's it.
Marina.
They're hot.
It's pretty
Yes,
interesting.
okay, and it is 2 o'clock. So I'd like to welcome everyone to, and thank everyone for being here at the Monterey Salinas Transit Board of Directors special meeting of November 25th. It is, as I said, 2 o'clock. And this is a meeting at the Monterey Salinas Transit District Board of Directors in person that is held today at 19 Upper Ragsdale Drive. And with that, we could go ahead and go directly on to, do we need to announce public
Did you
participation?
do a roll call?
You need to roll call.
Okay, so we're,
Establish the
that's,
quorum?
that's where we're going.
Yep.
So order of the day, I would like to call this meeting to order, and if Ikuyo could call roll, please. Thank you.
City of Cornell by the Sea,
Here.
City of Delray Oaks,
Here.
City of Gonzales,
Here.
City of Greenfield,
Yes.
Online?
City of King,
Absent.
absent,
Not well.
City of Marina,
Here.
City of Monterey,
Here.
City of Pacific Road,
Here.
City of Salinas,
Here.
City of San Luis,
Here.
City of Seaside,
Here.
City of Soledad,
Not unable to be here today.
and County of Monterey.
Present.
And
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
thank you. And for the record, there are two alternate locations with Zoom connection open to the public, and that attending is board member Ariana Rodriguez, and she's at 57 Primrose Way in Greenfield, and board member like Mike Labar, and he is, I believe, at 212 South Vanderhurst Avenue, King City, if he is feeling well enough to
Yeah,
attend.
the site is open for the public to attend at King City Hall. Mike is not attending. He is not feeling well and not well enough to even come home and be on camera. So he's
He normally would. Good.
absolutely,
He must
he
really
does
be
not, yeah,
Okay.
so.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to ask Director Smith if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join us.
Yes, sir.
Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Director. And we'll move on to public comments on matters not on the agenda. This time, members of the public may address the board on any matter related to the jurisdiction of MST, but not on the agenda. There will be a limit of not more than 3 minutes for each speaker, and the public is encouraged to engage in respectful dialogue that supports freedom of speech and values diversity of opinion. Failure to engage in a respectful dialogue will result in speakers being muted or required to leave. The committee will not take action or respond immediately to any public comments presented, but may choose to follow up at a later time, either individually, through staff, or on a subsequent agenda. Now, we have one action item, item 3.1, and this is on page 5 in your packet. And it is to consider approving a resolution 2025-09 committing MST to use in its allocation of $25,975,523 in state SB 125 funding and $2 million in MST capital reserves for the Surf Busway and Rapid Transit project. With us, Lisa will be giving us a staff report, and Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the board. Lisa Reinheimer, Deputy CEO for MST. And first of all, thank you for coming in on such short notice, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. So we are currently, myself, Carl, and the rest of the MST team in a mad sprint to secure the last federal funding through the Capital Investment Grant Program. before the new administration takes office on January 20th, 2025. So in order to lock down these funds, the FTA is requiring that MST secure all of its non-capital investment grant, I'm going to call them CIG, in the rest of this. And we have to show that those funds are committed to the project, and we have to submit that authorization or that commitment of funds by Friday, November 29th, AKA 4 days from now. So this commitment can be shown in the form of a grant agreement, a resolution, an obligation, and allocation from the funding agency. The approved amount is in the president's current budget at $22.17 million. And this amount was approved in 2023, but of course, costs have gone up, partly due to inflation, materials, supplies, labor, design changes, and most importantly, the requirements of the California Coastal Commission conditions for approval and the associated environmental mitigations. So in July, we had requested additional funding to the tune of $35.5 million. And then additionally, we had requested more funding through the FTA earlier this month, recognizing the Coastal Commission requirements for the mitigations. However, at this point in time, the FTA has simply run out of time to be able to consider those additional costs because we need to get to that January 20th deadline or seriously risk losing the funds. And Carl can talk about risk a little bit later. But the Trump administration does take office on the 20th, and with all the changes that would happen at the administration, this project would likely fall to the bottom of the priority list and would further delay getting the funding needed and, of course, increase the cost for the project. So we are at serious risk of losing at least the 22.17 and potentially more with that new administration. And we don't want that to happen. As staff, you've directed us time and time and time again to keep moving forward with the SURF project as a priority for our region. So in order to secure these $22.1 million of federal funds, we have to show that all of our non-CIG funds are committed. And the best way that we brainstorm to figure out where we can get these committed funds is to reallocate MST's share of the SB 125 funds. TAMC had split those funds 50-50 between MST and TAMC's rail projects and other projects. And that total amount is just shy of $26 million. So that could easily cover the cost increases and allow for that requirement of commitment of funds. So we had originally proposed that these SB 125 funds, as you recall, for MST's operating deficit, budgeted deficit, we still have an operating budgeted deficit, but our experience, what's actually happened over the last several years is we've had a surplus, which is good news for us. So the amount that we anticipate of using our reserves, we have somewhere to the tune of $60 million plus or minus cash reserves would be deleted or depleted slowly over the next several years, and those SB 125 funds would be committed to the SURF project. However, we would still continue to seek additional funds to supplant those SB 125 funds, freeing them up for the capital, for the operations side of the house as we move forward, especially for those environmental mitigations. So the last part is that MST secured a $2 million grant from AMBAG. Some of you who are on AMBAG board may remember this under a carbon reduction program. These funds originate from the Federal Highway Administration and need to be flexed, is what the term is, to the FTA in order to land in their accounts for this project. But that is slightly bureaucratic process that we're going through right now. So we still need to show those $2 million as committed while those funds are being flexed. Once those funds are flexed into the FTA account, it can then be those $2 million proposed capital reserve funds would then go back to MST's capital reserve. Essentially, it's a loan to ourselves. So MST staff recommends that the board approve resolution 2509, securing this $22.17 million before our deadlines this Friday, and then again before the Trump administration takes office. And Carl and I are happy to help answer questions, as well as on the finance side, we have our finance manager, Andrea Williams, and Michelle Overmeyer, who is frankly doing a ton of work to make this thing happen. So I don't want to miss the opportunity to appreciate Michelle's efforts in this regard.
Thank you, Lisa, for your report. With that, I'm going to ask directors if they have any questions at this time, and we'll go over to Director Barrera.
Yes, I noticed you keep saying Trump's taking administration. Is it possible that this board, if they do approve, if this board does approve it, can it be taken away?
As long as our grant agreement is signed, the ink is on the grant agreement before the Trump administration takes over, we're fine. It's just that the money is in a budget right now, but that's not a contract. That's not an agreement with MST, and it could be easily clawed back from a budget.
Let's see it.
Director Alejo?
Carl?
Yep.
Could you elaborate on the 25,000? Did we previously set that aside for this particular project, or will this take from available funds for other potential projects? And then on the 2 million from reserves, how much would that leave us in the balance for reserve, out of our reserve account?
I'll answer the first question, and then I may have to lean on Andrea for the second question. The $25 million was set aside in our budget as future operating expenses, deficit reduction. There was no particular project identified. As Lisa mentioned, we applied for additional funding as early as last July, that this project would have been eligible for additional federal funding, all but for the fact that while the federal formula that's used to allocate the funds would support tens of millions of dollars more for this project through federal sources, the fact is we learned Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was Thursday, Lisa and I learned that the Federal Transit Administration took no action on that request for the additional money because they were waiting for all of the permits to be secured, the third-party agreements, which is something they told us we needed to have done in July, and something that we communicated to the Coastal Commission, to Caltrans, to our local cities. And not through lack of trying, through weekly updates and goading and trying to get your local mayor, local councils involved, and mayors and everyone, the process in California for regional projects is broken. This is an example of that. 50 permits, 185 conditions.
And counting.
And counting. Some of those permits taking multiple years. Caltrans, we had 20 separate Caltrans employees provide us 270 separate comments on the 250 feet of the 4.8 miles that run through the Caltrans corridor. So those are why we missed our deadline, and why the federal government is saying, we're going back to your original amount that's already approved, because if we were told on Thursday that if you ask for one more dollar, it's got to go all the way up to the Secretary of Transportation and come all the way back down again, and we don't have time. So we were basically told that we can take the 22.1 million, or we can roll the dice with the next administration and try to get more. And we were strongly advised by our congressman, by our federal advocates, by our industry associates, and by my peers in the industry who went through this with the last turnover of an administration. They said, do not cross over the administration, any administration, because you may lose your money or it'll be significantly delayed. Samtrans and San Mateo County and Caltrain had their projects in a similar situation 2 administrations ago, were delayed over a year, getting funding that was on the verge and they missed it. Now, the $2 million, is any of this money currently in our cash flow projections, Andrea? Are we showing that?
Yeah, so I was just asking Michelle how long it would take to flex those funds, maybe a couple months. So it'd be short-term loan for ourselves. We have 60 some odd $1 million of cash on hand. So we can just pull that cash on hand to show that it's committed. And then once those flex funds come in, then that cash on hand would not be an issue.
And I think it's important to note that the 25 million is of SB 125 is a worst case scenario only. We have had commitments from Senator Laird and from others that they will seek funding for us to offset some of these mitigation efforts from the Coastal Commission that has. So the 25 million is the reason we're asking for that funding, because it is the most flexible. The state has asked for an email. Once the board approves this, all they need is an email saying that it's done, and they will adjust the funding for us because it is in fact so flexible for them to use. There's no other actions that need to be taken. The TAMC action did not specify the use. It just said $25.1 million or whatever it is to MST, not specifying anything. There was a action from TAMC staff that on MST's request said that we wanted to use the money for future operating expense. All the state department that's running that said, just send us an email that says you're changing it from that to this, and we're good. So we can apply for and receive future funds from active transportation programs, environmental enhancement mitigation programs. There are a number of other grant programs at the state level that we can seek during this project to offset, and we can return that SB 125 back to the budget. This is just securing the budget, securing the sources of funding only.
Carl,
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Okay,
We got thrown a curveball here.
Oh,
I know
we got-
I know you and the whole team have been doing the best you can under the circumstances. You have a change in administration, which makes it more complex. But these dollars, I just wanted to be clear on whether money's coming in and what situation we're in. So these 25 million were from the money that came through TAMZ? For
Yeah.
the transit, the additional allocation?
The SB
in the
125
state
funds, that
budget. Got it.
transit fiscal cliff
Okay.
money that really, in
Right.
in our eyes, kind of fell out of the sky.
Right.
We-
But at least we know it could have been used for other purposes,
It-
but now because of this circumstance, we want to get this project across the finish line.
Right.
That we're having to make this emergency decision to utilize those funds to finish this project.
To allocate the funds to this use, and then we'll then be working to get new funds
New funds, right, yeah.
to shift it around later.
We
We-
need
Yeah.
this.
we need
deadline
to-
by Friday.
Yeah, we need to
I
get
get it.
Yeah.
a resolution to the FDA by Friday so that they can ink a contract with us.
Exactly.
And then we can do all the shifting around of state funds as much as we can. This is really, for the federal funds, they need to show all the other commitments. And this is the quickest way to show them all of the other commitments.
Mhm.
And we wanted to do it because the way this has been working with our federal partners, they seem to drip, ask us. So we put together a resolution that included all of the funds so that they won't ever ask us again through this process, so that we don't have any more emergency meetings between now and then. So they asked us for the one thing, we're just covering it all with this meeting.
And I'll just say, I think it's incumbent to try to pursue any other funding opportunities, including whatever John Laird had said he would do for us this coming legislative session, at least out of state money. That would be much.
Absolutely,
for sure.
it is.
Show me the money.
It is a priority.
Yeah.
We want to secure every bit of funding we can for our operating expenses as well. But we got to push this project over the line, and we have to show this documentation in order to get the funding secured. So, and that was what was told to Lisa and I on Thursday.
Yeah, to be flexible, right? So the other thing the resolution does is authorizes the general manager to execute all the required documents. So we wouldn't have to come back necessarily at another special emergency meeting to get authorization for Carl to sign those grant agreements.
I hate to muddy any waters.
No, go ahead. Buddy,
But,
now's the time.
there was a $2 million AMBAG,
Right.
money. So did that money have to be used by a certain time by MST? And you're saying that, I don't know if it was earmarked for a bus or capital improvements or.
It's earmarked for this project, but there's a process. There's intergovernmental agreements between the Federal Highway Administration and the FTA that still has to be completed. So we're showing $2 million out of our capital reserves, which we have $60 million, I believe, in right now. So we're going to show $2 million. And then when that paperwork gets completed, we're going to put the federal highway money into the project and release the $2 million back to our capital
Okay,
reserves. And we
right.
think that'll be a 2-month project. or
About that, yeah.
About 2 months
Yeah.
for them to finish their work. That's not at risk. That's money that's
It's just a
Right.
committed.
bureaucratic
It's a
process
bureaucratic
more than
paperwork
anything
Right.
else.
process.
And just as chair as AMBAG, so that was
Yeah.
officially, I needed to ask that question.
Yep.
And then, so we're giving out a loan to ourselves, Lisa said, so I know in other entities like the cities or whatever, when we used to have the successor agency or redevelopment and all that. So did we have to have any certain legally, any certain things set up that we're giving a loan from this money to here? Or that could all be done as
The
directors
resolution,
The resolution lays out.
and it works out in
lays
that
it out
way.
Appropriately, and
Okay.
it's not actually, it's not exactly a loan, it's a loan-esque, as we were talking about.
It's a
Yeah.
loan on paper
it's
more than anything else.
Okay.
No funds are going to be transferred.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that was it, that was, I just wanted to bring that up, I didn't know if we had to do add another step here.
no, it's, yeah.
And I just have one
Mhm.
quick, so this resolution encompasses everything that you foresee could be a problem. That's what I'm.
That was the idea.
Okay, just to make sure that all the i's are dotted and the
Yeah.
t's are crossed.
They
Okay,
asked us for the SB 125
Right.
specifically, and I directed Lisa in putting this together. Kitchen sink it, put everything in so that they can't come back and ask us more questions.
In fact, we sent the resolution off to the FTA and asked for comments by noon today, and we got no
Didn't get
comments.
any. Okay, good. All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from directors? Amelia?
I just, for Lisa and Carl and the crew here, I appreciate all the heavy lifting you've done on this.
Thank you.
Yes, same here. I would just like to thank the entire team for coming up with a way forward and to explain how it works, because this has taken a lot of time, I assume.
Yes.
So thank
And
you.
as much as you may hear me, have some disdain for our federal partners over this process, they are helping us through the program. It's just, they have their own well-established procedures that they have to go through, and I wish it was different, but we're just, following that, and they are being as flexible as they possibly can. So I don't want to, necessarily, the people who are involved are being as helpful as they possibly can be. The process that they work within could use a lot of help. So you'll see in a future board meeting in December, our legislative agenda item, and there'll be some items in both our federal and state legislative program about permit reform. Because now we know how much it costs us.
Are there any other questions or comments from the directors at this time?
Just a comment.
Yes,
Just thank you. I know everyone's trying to get in the mood of being gone Thursday and Friday, and I know the deadline looms, so thank you for your extra work.
Thank you.
And we can all celebrate on Thanksgiving knowing that it's put to bed and we're in good shape.
Yep.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
okay. Yes, the staff has been working around the clock on this. So, thank you. So with that, I am going to go ahead and open this up to the public. So for the record, if anyone here in the room would like to come up to the dais, please do at this time. State your name and comments, and you have 3 minutes. And I see no one in the conference room, so let's take it out to Zoom if there's anyone from the public via Zoom. If you would like to raise your hand, and if you would like to make comment, so we could identify you. And I am not seeing anyone.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, so with that, there is a staff recommendation on page 5 requesting the board to approve the resolution 2025-09 committing MST to use its allocation of $25,975,000, $523 in state SB 125 funding and $2 million in MST capital reserves for the Surf Busway and Bus Rapid Transit Project. We have
We'll
it first
We'll have a roll call vote.
and a second and roll call vote.
Can you please repeat who the first motion?
Alejo and Smith.
Alejo, seconded by Smith.
Okay,
Sorry.
great.
Yeah, perfect.
See with the roll call vote then. Director Barron,
Yes.
Director Shirley,
Yes.
Director Worthy,
Yes.
Director Rodriguez,
Is that a yes?
She's unmuted. Oh, she muted herself.
There she is.
Yes, can you hear me? My vote is yes.
Thank you.
Director Lamar is absent, Director Fisher,
Yes,
Director Smith,
Yes.
Director Emilio,
Yes.
Director Barrera,
Yes.
Director Carbone,
Yes,
Director Pacheco,
Yes.
Director Velasquez is absent, and Director Alejo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
The
okay,
motion passes
Motion
11-0-2.
okay. Thank you, staff and directors,
Let's get this
and
done.
we'll go ahead and move on to the
Thank you.
next item 4, and this meeting is adjourned.
Madam Chair, can we close this meeting?
We can.
Yes.
Then Juanita Calindrino, Legar, Jeanette's mother, let's
Close in a
further
moment.
go
next item.
through that. Yes, please.
Learning memory.
Yes,
We will
thank you.
let the minutes reflect that.
Yes, thank you.
She rest in peace.
Amen.
This meeting is going.
Thank you, everyone
Thank
for
you, everyone.
being
Thank
here.
you, everyone, for showing.